Kjære alle sammen, velkommen til et dokumentintervju med en ekstraordinær vitenskapsmann som har medvirket til Klimajuristenes konferanse på Gardermoen i slutten av august, som har titlen Klimakunnskapskrisen. Hvordan påvirker den ytringsfrihet, journalistikk, klimavitenskap og politikk? So today I have the honor and pleasure of interviewing the 2022 Nobel Prize winner in physics, John Clauser, who gave a lecture on this conference, and that was a keynote lecture on how the climate is controlled by the clouds. So, Dr. Clauser, welcome to Norway.
Thank you.
One of your key messages is that there is no climate crisis and that the claims of a climate crisis are based on bad science. But many people seem to believe that the IPCC claims of a climate crisis are based on very solid science. Could you explain why it is not?
The IPCC claims, the question, where did they get their information? Some of it is from the IPCC reports. That's much later. Dominantly, they get their reports from politicians. In particular, probably the most important one was Al Gore's movie, where An Inconvenient Truth, where he made some totally incorrect statements. He said, there is total consensus among climate scientists. There are zero people who disagree with me, the climate scientists, and well, they aren't believable climate scientists, so I don't count them. The reality of the situation is that there is no consensus. This is a total fantasy on Al Gore's part, and or total dishonesty. What I described in my talk, where I showed both in the climate modeling and even among the observational people who did all the satellite work, there is a massive disagreement. In the climate modeling, showed that they just displayed reports from the climate modelers that were published in the IPCC reports, where they show the computer simulations by 40 different models distributed among 20 different laboratories around the world, and they all calculate violently different results. None of these, they all in disagreement with each other, all in total disagreement with the observational data. This is hardly what you would consider consensus. In addition, if you look at the people who actually went out to try to measure this stuff, the guys who did the satellite work, they admit up front that the satellites are totally incapable. And they were the ones who designed them and put them up there. I mean, this is very embarrassing, but they admit that the satellites are incapable of measuring the effects of climate science. And among the various observationalists, there is significant agreement within each of the observation groups. And it gets so bad at one point that one group splits off, writes a minority report, saying, we disagree with the previous report. And then those two authors finally join together and write a report where they say, yes, we did fudge the data there in the previous report, and we made a decision whether or not we should include ocean heat content data to replace the satellite data. And none of this really shows any global warming. But then they sneaked in line 5 of the abstract. Oh yeah, we have global warming.
I'm so
and then worse yet, another one of them Loeb goes through and it takes to the in 2018. He takes the ocean heat content data, and he uses it to recalibrate all of the data available from the satellite data in the public available databases, and just simply overwrites it. Now, he doesn't admit the way the first two guys did that, yeah, he cheated and lied. They admitted that they cheated and lied, but he admits, oh, yeah, I just shifted the data. I call that's data fabrication. That's one of our scientific no-nos. The net result of all of this is the scientists in the primary contributors to the IPCC reports have cheated and lied about the data.
I wonder, how do they get away with these climate models when it's so fudged, when they are mutually contradictory? Is this even science at all?
It is not science, or it is bad science. I really don't care what the results of all of this are. I am just simply trying to do an audit and check for and insist on good science. And different branches of science seem to have totally different standards. I'm from the field of physics, which has extremely tight standards. In most other fields, it appears that there's positively appallingly lax standards. Climate science, medicine, law, business. They will accept all kinds of total garbage and replacement for what they claim is science. The literature is just rampant with pseudoscientific reports, and the sad part about it is that the politicians, the congressmen and the like, are totally uneducated in science and also in mathematics. They couldn't solve a differential equation to save their lives. They had to. They couldn't solve the simplest differential equation, absolutely necessary in order to do science. And this makes them total patsies for dishonest scientists. In addition, I showed for example, the article that which from NOAA, National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Agency, in Physics Today. In theory, this was written by scientists. No, it was written by politicians. Jane Lubchenco was an undersecretary of commerce. Thomas Carl was the director of the climate science program. These are politicians, and they don't know squat about science. And when you look at their data, which they publish, their own data disprove their own claims.
But everybody knows that climate is all about physics. So when you have this very significant criticism coming from a lot of prominent physicists, I mean, on top of my head, Young Freeman Dyson, Stephen Kuhn, William Happer, Richard Lynch.
They're mostly they're misquoted because the journalists don't even know, are clueless as to what is good science or not. They just cherry pick the statements because it creates good headlines. And these are climate activist journalists typically. There are damn few statements. For example, what are the examples you're talking about Freeman Dyson claims?
Well, there's a famous interview with him on YouTube where he says that, well, climate models are good for understanding the climate, but they're not very good at predicting the climate. And,
so and you're saying this shows that they are good for predicting the climate? Hardly.
I mean, when prominent physicists say that this is not good science, then people from the mainstream...
if you call me a prominent scientist, yes, I say that this is all plain bad science. and it just has not been decently reviewed. One of the problems is the standards in physics are very different than the standards elsewhere. Physics has a very tight standards, and yes, climate science is physics. Physicists are not used to having people stand up and lie. The standard reception is, well, okay, yeah, I'll trust him because in theory, is a decent scientist. When you have a crossover between climate pseudoscientists or pretend scientists, Jane Lubchenco, he claims to be a climate science expert. Al Gore claims to be a climate science expert. I doubt that Al Gore can solve a differential equation to save his life.
Wouldn't recognize one on paper.
Or even recognize one.
But you bring good news. You say there is no climate crisis.
I do.
And you say that this is due to the thermostat effect of the cloud.
Correct.
How come that nobody in the mainstream climate research community has not refined the cloud models as much as you have? I mean, you say you do 4 partitions. You look at the clouds over the water and over the earth.
Okay, the original setup was by a man named Ramanathan in 1987, where he decided that the best way to analyze the Earth's atmosphere was to divide it into 2 homogeneous partitions. Cloudy, clear sky, and otherwise. Now, well, otherwise meant cloudy sky. Well, the cloudy sky has a wide range of compositions, from partly cloudy to totally overcast. And this was a very poor definition that it was using, and he just sort of lumped them all in. And so rather than call them cloudy sky, they call them CRE, cloud radiative effect, which is the difference between clear sky and whatever else there is. And so that was back in 1987 that he proposed that. And then a very important discovery was made along the way by King et al. In 2013, that there are really 4 different regimes. There are cloudy skies and clear skies over ocean, and cloudy skies and clear skies over land. And these were the skies over land were dramatically different from the typical cloud fraction over land was the order of 54%. The typically fraction of skies that are cloudy over oceans is 72%. These are dramatically different results. And this is a very carefully done study looking at the Terra and Aqua satellites, and it was totally ignored. And it totally upsets the way the whole system was being analyzed. It was totally ignored by all of the workers. Whether it was suppressed or not, I don't know. I mean, I downloaded it off the web. It was published, but it totally restructures how one should treat the atmosphere. All the IPCC models were totally incapable of doing this.
So for decades, they have used an oversimplified model that is...
Well, certainly an incorrect one. They have not published what all the details of their computer models are. They haven't even published who the authors are. As far as I can tell from reading, these were mostly written by the Goddard Institute for Space Studies, which is actually, it was where I wrote my PhD thesis back in the late 60s. But who knows what's in the models? But they were apparently, I assume it's probably the same software that has been distributed to all these different laboratories. And the different laboratories, when they try to use it, all get violently different results. So there's definitely no consensus at all, despite what Al Gore says, among the climate scientists who are doing this. Where he gets this notion that there is, and calls this the consensus opinion, is a total mystery to me. This is grossly dishonest.
So the people who do rigorously physics have a communication problem because
they don't have a communicate. They communicate very well. They're communicating flawed science.
Yeah, but the real scientists have a communication problem because they are unable to convince the world that look, that these guys are not doing
well. I do see one of the problems. I think people like me who are kind of late to get in the game, who and or those who just blindly assumed that there was that honest science was being done, didn't realize that we have a whole new generation of grossly dishonest pseudoscientists who are controlling the dialogue and it being accepted by the IPCC. It's for a while, it took a while to be alerted to the fact that, yes, there's a lot of gross scientific disinformation and misinformation floating around, and no one has gone to the effort. It took a lot of effort to track down the details of where that I described in my talk yesterday. To actually look through and look carefully at all the numbers and find, hey, this arithmetic doesn't work. These guys are cheating and they just can't add. So it seems to me any decent scientist would know how to add.
So it took a while for the adults to wake up and see what was going on.
Nobody was bothered. And the worst part about it is the volume of literature is enormous to comb through. That everybody is writing some little problem about some little a few watts here and there, and they ignore all of the big numbers.
But now it seems that the Trump administration is trying to cut through all this. I can see that Stephen Kuhn is back in the energy department.
I think this is a good thing that is happening. Whether or not it is successful, it's the recent report that Department of Energy Chris Wright has produced. Whether it is going to be litigated in probably going all the way to the Supreme Court, which is weird because you're now having Supreme Court justices who also couldn't solve a differential equation to save their life to decide on science. This is totally unprecedented in history.
So we are awaiting a battle where the real scientists and the pseudoscientists will fight in trying to convince the judges.
Perhaps, or one would hope that there are real scientists fighting pseudoscientists rather than both sides mustering pseudoscience. It's hard to tell what's going to happen.
Dr. Klauser, thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Thank you.